Hey guys, Dana Dahlquist here. Going to do a video breakdown of James Hahn's golf swing, and I'm going to kind of show everybody what he's been working on this week. And he's made some adjustments, and there's going to be some long-term changes. But just to kind of give some background here, so James is very visual. He does most of his golf instruction based off what a lot of other players do, and take some things and leave some others. So, but a couple of things that he struggled with. He's got a really good golf swing, by the way. So there's a couple things in here that he's starting to make some movements towards. So I'm just going to kind of show, basically 2 or 3 of those things. And if you happen to be a player who happens to do some of the same things that he does, they might be suited for your game. So now this is actually from this week, and one of our friends, George Bradford, we'll shout out to you, took the video here on the right, and this is from the range, and this is on the course on the left. Okay, now the one on the left is a draw, the one on the right is actually pretty straight to slight fade. So what you're going to notice is that he has a very conventional, great golf swing. Okay, so first and foremost, as some of my other videos have kind of dictated, his club face is very, very square to his forward bend of his body as he turns into his backswing. So one of the things he's been doing as of late is he's starting to load differently into his backswing, into his trail leg. Okay, so he moves the center of pressure differently than he did earlier this year. And so that's going to be one of the big changes, and I'll actually show you guys this from the front. Okay, and so just looking at that, you can see because he transfers into that trail leg, there's going to be, obviously, like I've said previously in other videos, that there's going to be change of leg flex. So you're going to see the left leg lose flex, left leg is going to increase flex. Okay, so right leg loses flex, left leg increases flex. And what that does is allows the hips to turn on a tilted angle and allow the right hip to move back. Okay, and as you can see in this condition here, his shaft is pointing inside the golf ball. Okay, so for a lot of amateur players, you probably want to do this, and I'll tell you why. Whether it's Jim Furyk or James, you're going to see that this club getting steeper on backswing allows the forces of the club, without getting complicated or trying to explain biomechanics stuff, it just makes it more suited for the club to return on an easier angle, okay, without getting into anything that's complicated. Alright, so this is something that I recommend most people do. Alright, so he goes to the top of his swing, and it's an awesome backswing. You can see good club face alignments, good inclination to the ground. So Golf Channel, a lot of guys call this spine tilt. We know it's not actually that, but you can see that he really stays in that inclination. Okay? Alright, now here's what's interesting. And this is something that he presently was struggling with. Okay? And then there was some concepts that he's starting to make some changes. Alright? Now one of those is that when he starts down, he starts to drop his hands and arms back. And as he does this, it's kind of interesting. He starts to move forward, rotate his hips because his weight goes forward too quickly towards his left foot. All right. Now, for a lot of folks, this is actually a good thing, to have your arms kind of drop in and back, especially if you're a slicer. But it's a little bit compromising to do it to this degree, because it's going to create some issues on the bottom of the arc. So you're going to see as he starts to rotate and get down here, he actually produces a pretty good face condition, his left wrist and his right wrist, but his hips prematurely go up and his shoulders stay closed. Now, sure, there are some players who can do this, but James is actually having some issues in his back because of it. Okay? So what happens is he starts getting a tremendous amount of side bend too early, and he throws his path out to the right. and you see his arms get thrown out. All right? And that's where some of the problems are, because you can see that's really something where he has to come up and out of the shot. Okay? So what were some of these changes? Well, what he's presently trying to do, and this is just a concept, he's not, beating this, into oblivion. Okay, he's just trying to work a concept. Is he's trying to get, over the period of time, his hands to move out on this line as he squats down and stays back. Now, his arms are still in, okay? And you're going to notice with both of these, his arms are both in. Right? But you see how his eye line changes a little bit? Okay? And you see a little difference in the face. Okay, watch this. It's a little bit different, not by much. All right, smidge, maybe a smidge more open with his shoulders, not by much. A little different face to the golf ball. All right, so it's a little less of the club kind of rolling over. All right. Now in long term, he's going to start getting that hand path right here to trace down this line. Okay. And I'm going to take it right down to here. So right now the hands are too far in. Right elbow gets a little bit back. Hips come up a little bit early. And then right here, his hands can't go around the corner. Okay, so a lot of guys would say, well, swinging to the left. Okay, which doesn't really matter if it's not in the right spot. Okay? So that's something that he's really going to be working on. Now, how does this even take place? Okay, so a couple things. I'm going to pull up his forward view. Now, this is from a couple weeks ago. All right, so here he is. He's on the range. And what we're going to notice, we'll put a line on his left heel. And this is the first thing that he did. Camera moved a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. So turns. So you can see his loading pattern better. Right, see how he's loaded better. Now, in the past, this part of his body would overextend towards the yellow line. Okay, now that's better now. Okay, hasn't done that. Now, this is prior to this last week. So this last week, he tried to stay back longer, just momentarily, and turn more so that his hands came more out. All right, so you can see he's rotating. So you can see the knees here. So watch the knees. Knees are rotating, but he's also shifted forward, some amount. Now the problem with that is he's moved so far forward that his body loses its ability to open. So he has to give himself some room. He comes up. You can see the face. Let me zoom this out just a little bit. You can see the face right there start to turn. So the club would stay too close to his body for too long past the ball. So normally when you look at a lot of players, you would see at this point their body more open and their hips actually start coming up at this point. But they'd be more open. And the handle will be further away from their body. So this is all predicated on the fact that on his downswing, the arms are more from the inside, especially the lead arm. And, what are some things to do here? Well, ideally, I would like the shaft somewhere right there, and the hands are on that line as two. Okay? So when you guys are looking at your golf videos, you film your swing, not a bad thing to do, your hands wouldn't be that far in. Okay, they'd be out towards the blue line. And they would stay going towards the ball all the way to here. Okay? Now you'd see some players do that. Okay, I'm going to pull up another one. So here's the example I'll give you. Here's Davis Love. We're going to put both James and him together. We'll put a blue line here. Okay. Now watch the transition. So his hands drop back. Watch Davis's hands move out. Okay. Now you're going to notice that the shaft at this point is shallower than the hand path. Okay. And that's a real important concept, because right here, because his hands are more in, his shaft's pointing inside the ball. So his body's got to do something to reconcile that. So if you struggle with something like this, maybe it's an early extension move, or however you want to put it, sometimes this is the case. All right. Now granted, this gentleman won the golf tournament, but he also has been working on this concept. So you can see the difference in the shoulders, the hips, and the inclination to the ground. Okay, you can see how Davis's shoulders are more, quote unquote, more square at this point. Both of them have to have the same, roughly the same face conditions, which is good, because if James's left wrist was open here, we'd have some problems. Okay, so this is kind of what he's been working on, and if you're have some of the same issues in your golf swing, this would be a good concept to kind of roll with. Okay, so let's just kind of recover here. So first and foremost, first thing that he was working on, I'll actually zoom this out for you guys. First thing that he does that I think is something that everybody should kind of strive for is getting the club to move back. Shoulders, hips, everything freely moving, and the shaft getting inside the golf ball. Okay, some amount. Okay, at or inside, I prefer a little inside for golf ball. And you can notice the left arm is in with his rotation, the right arm structure is in front of his right lat. Okay, that's a good position to be in. If you struggle with this, this is a good model. Okay, and then secondly is just like what he's working on, keep your weight back longer, and then get your hand path to match up to this. So his hands drop in. Just think of the Davis move. The hands are going to come a little more out. I'm not saying throw your arms out. Absolutely not. I'm just saying the hand path's going to move out some amount to get the shaft to point out here, to be shallowing. If you do that, you won't early extend. Okay? And so, maybe this stuff that he's working on gave him a 1% better chance, and to be quite frank, there's a lot of things that add up to making a golfer great, let alone winning a golf tournament. So, but I think one of the great attributes, just to kind of piggyback this whole subject matter, is that he's a guy who doesn't have a coach out there all the time, and I think that allows him to become a better player in the long run, because he's not trying to tinker all the time with random instruction. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about him as a golfer. Okay, is that he kind of understands what he's working on, and by the time it gets to be tournament time, he has clear thoughts. He can go out and play, and worry about playing the golf course the way it should be played. So anyway, hopefully that made some sense about what James has been working on, and where his golf game is possibly headed.